Hey YouTubers, Crud Big Rig here again, and I figured I'd take apart two different types of bolt carrier groups that I have laying around. One is a Spikes Tactical, just standard bolt carrier group. It does have the full auto cut, but I don't have any full auto, so that's really no use to me. And then I have a very cool piece of gear here. It's the LMT bolt carrier group with the Enhanced Bolt. Now, when I got that bolt, I was having issues with extraction problems with one of my rifles. I popped this sucker in and it works flawlessly now, so I'm kind of a believer. I do agree that if the old-fashioned AR-15 M16 bolt works fine for you, don't spend the extra money on this thing, because heck, this bolt alone could pay for this entire bolt carrier group. So I'm gonna take it apart for you, and then we can check out the main differences between the two. Now, obviously, you're going to say to yourself, well, the biggest change is the fact that one's chrome lined and one has your standard military finish to it. And that would be correct. The chrome lining is easier to clean the carbon off the bolt tail, but there's some other internal differences that really make this bolt stand apart from the standard USGI style bolt. First off, you'll notice with the extractor, there's what they call a lobster tail style extractor. What this is for is it has two internal springs instead of a large one in the center, and this helps with extraction tension. And it seems to work pretty well, because I noticed with the actual rim of the cartridge, there's no more nicks in it from the bolt trying to grab it. As you'll see here, there's a two-spring setup to it compared to your standard USGI setup. Now, I will say this too, that two-spring job is quite substantially harder to push in than the standard USGI, but as you can see here, the surfaces on the extractors are completely different. Has a much larger rear end surface on it. And the other major change is the fact that the LMT bolt face is fully circular, so it supports the cartridge, as opposed to the USGI bolt face. If you have a cartridge in here, it's actually pushed all the way up against the bolt face, as opposed to the USGI one that kind of halves it a little bit. All right, let me see if I can get a little bit closer for you guys. See how much of that is just sticking out. And the other huge difference between obviously the two springs in the LMT bolt is the fact that the differences between the two bolts, you'll see that there's these cuts actually in the lugs. Now a lot of people say that it's for digging out sand in an aggressive environment, and all these other whiz-bang terminologies. I'm really surprised they haven't even gone with, this is the official bolt of the U.S. Special Forces, but in reality it's just your standard support cuts. Why this bolt has rounded edges is actually so that these bolts won't shear off. The standard USGI bolts have an issue where if they're shot in full auto, they can break in less than 5,000 rounds. Again, for most civilians, you're never going to need that with this one, but it's kind of a nice little bit of reassurance being able to use your bolt to your biggest advantage. And here again, nice and close up, you can see the differences in between the unsupported bolt face and the supported, as well as the extractor holes.